We have the temples, we have the monk body,
Yes.
but the whole idea behind this program is so that the people also comprehend the Dharma, the main essence of it.
Good.
So along that line, first, it's an observation that I've made that first a person gets interested into Buddhism, then he gets into Buddhism, and there is a general majority who tend to see Buddhism in a dissected form, as in, for instance, when I was doing a research on Dr. Yourself, Doctor was put in as a Gelug scholar. So similarly, the kind of tradition we have here in Bhutan is Kagyu. And then we have the Nyingma tradition. Then there is the Sakya tradition. So if Doctor could share your perspective or about what the Buddha said about this sectarianism.
Thank you, Kamala.
One important thing we have to know is that Shakyamuni Buddha was neither a Nyingma Pa, nor a Kagyu Pa, nor a Gelug Pa, nor a Zen Buddhist, nor a Sakya Pa. He was a human being who had discovered the nature of reality. And then from that discovery, the different education systems and the different religious systems that have emerged in many, many countries over thousands of years, people have come to think of it as a membership in a kind of club, in a kind of denomination, what we would say, maybe religiously, or a sect, they even say, which I think is actually a wrong word to use the English word sect. It's better to use the English word order for the Kagyu, Sakya, Nyingma, Gelug. Order, like you see in Catholicism, they talk about Franciscan, Dominican, etc., and they refer to different orders because they're all part of Catholicism. When you begin to get into sect, you're using kind of a Protestant term where they're beginning to say, oh, the Catholics are not really Christian. The Catholics used to say anyway, oh, the Protestants are not really Christian. Then amongst each other, they used to really freak out. So sect means a division within a religious movement or a cultural movement where the two people on the two sides don't think the other one is of the same religion or the same movement. And that's too strong a division, you know. So I think order is better. Anyway, point is Shakyamuni Buddha was none of them. And people can say I'm a Gelugpa, but I don't consider myself a Gelugpa, actually. I do not. I consider that some kind of membership in a club that I don't really belong in. In other words, I really like the great master Je Tsongkhapa. There's no question about it. I like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. But the Dalai Lama is the practitioner of Nyingma teaching, Kagyu, Sakya teaching, and also scientific teaching. He also supports the Bembos, the Christians, the Muslims. And this is how we have to be today in the modern world, and particularly in a democracy where you basically have separation of church and state, and you have the idea that there is no state religion. And although there may be a religion, the majority of a people in a state follow, but that the state doesn't enforce that religion against people who are in other religions. That's really, really important. And although I would say I have another idea there, which is that I also think it's not fair that one religion can go and tell people who belong to the other one that their religion is no good. That should be a civil rights violation, actually. So you cannot proselytize to the degree where, like a Buddhist can tell a Christian they're all wrong and their religion is no good. They're going to hell or something. The Muslim cannot tell that to the Buddhist. The Buddhist cannot tell that to the Muslim. Christian cannot say to the Muslim, etc. It's not the right time in history, and actually it's never been correct for people to go and attack each other's religions. And it will cause terrible conflict. It is causing terrible conflict in the world today. So that's the thing. Now, in the case of, however, Bhutan, if you consider the Buddhist claim that the Buddha made, that he understood the nature of reality accurately and precisely, like a successful scientist, more successful actually than the modern scientist, who says they have good theories, but none of them really still understands reality, and they even think that it's impossible to understand reality. They're trying to make a formula that will control everything, you know, what they call the unified field theory or the grand unified theory, GUT, the gut theory. They try to make like a theory, like a formula, mathematical or philosophical, and they make that effort, but they don't think it's possible to experience that. They don't practice meditation. They don't cultivate their mind in that way. They do actually meditate in their laboratories without thinking they're meditating, but they do. But they don't make that their method. unfortunately. So they have a theory that no one will ever understand. And they'll just learn to manipulate this piece and that piece and develop technology and do this and that powerful thing. So therefore everyone has to respect them because they can destroy everything, actually. But they have a theory that you can't understand. Also, religious people have a theory that you can't understand, only God understands. And anybody who says they understand is some kind of fanatic or heretic or crazy person. So this we have to realize. Buddha said, honestly, I do understand. But it's tricky because he said, what I understand, which is actual reality, cannot be captured in a theory. It's beyond theories. It's transcendental to theories, except for that theory, actually, the theory of emptiness, the theory of voidness, the theory that no theory captures reality. But the human being can understand that by experience without capturing it, because the human being is part of that reality. So this is really, it's tricky. In other words, he understands everything, but he's not claiming that he has a dogmatic theory that you just say, I repeat the theory, then I understand. No, you have to work with your own mind and your own intelligence and your own reasoning and your own concentration, and then you might be able to understand him when you become a Buddha. So he's unique between what the modern scientists say and what the religious people say. So and he has aspects of both sides. So that's where we have to celebrate him. He's unique on the world in that statement. And although actually later on many other people became Buddhas, and then they also became unique. And the great thing is you and I can become unique. Everybody can be unique. We all can be Buddhas. And actually that is the purpose of life, is to become a Buddha. Not only because we'll be happy when we understand everything, but also because based on that understanding, we can help others understand, and we can be effectively compassionate and helpful to them, and not harmful. So therefore, finally, my point here for Bhutan people is, not only should they go and pray at the temple on Saga Dawa, and not only should they with deep devotion and reverence remember the great effort and the great mastery of the Buddha and all of his successors like Nagarjuna, Arya Sangha, the Bodhisattvas, Maitreya, Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and the great masters through history, like Drukpa Pema Karpo, like the Shabdung, a fantastic guy. He was like a superhero, that guy. Shabdung, a fantastic guy, and enlightened person. And also, many others, Tsongkhapa, Longchenpa, Padmasambhava, Sakya Pandita, etc., all the Dalai Lamas, all the Karmapas, all the many great people in Tibet, and many people in China, Japan, Korea, and India. Over the years, the great masters of Nalanda. So at this time of Saga Dawa, we remember all of those people, and we feel great faith and devotion. But also, the real way to honor them is not only to feel faith and devotion in them, but is to learn something. Even one verse, even one line, if we learn the meaning of all things are selfless, because they lack intrinsic reality separate from relationships. There's nothing about anything that is separate from being related with everything else. And learn what that means, that one statement, for example. That's the highest way of honoring. As the Buddha said in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, the Sherapji Paradu Jimbe Do, he said, learning the meaning of one 4-line verse is better than filling the universe with jeweled stupas in honoring all the universe, all the Buddhas. Just learning the meaning of that is, because they don't need jeweled stupas. The Buddhas, it's nice if people make them, and they make generosity, and they're beautiful, and it's important to remind people that there's a higher possibility in life, but the Buddhas don't really need them. What the Buddhas need is other beings to be happy by understanding. So therefore, learn something this Saga Dawa. I challenge everyone in Bhutan, young and old, monk or layman, or nun or laywoman, to learn something new that they didn't know before from the Buddha's teaching, especially about what is called Yandakpe Tawa. And Yandakpe Tawa means, Samyak Dushti, a realistic worldview. What is the real nature of the world? something about that is to be learned, which doesn't necessarily mean learn something religious. It could be learn something scientific, but they should learn something.
And along that line of learning, because to retrace the question that I put forward to Dr. While they learn all of this, to also learn, I think, if I'm not wrong, when Doctor was speaking about the people that they should pay homage to, like the Buddha, the Padmasambhava, Jetsongkhapa. So basically, Doctor went on to speak about all scholars from all schools, not differentiating.
Exactly.
So Doctor is sharing with us that actually this is just something that we've made up to confuse ourselves further.